Hello folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA wrap. Well, we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today? What does it tell us about tomorrow? I do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of what shall be a snowy Rocky Mountains again tonight. Folks, it's over the highs and away we go. S&P gets into the big bar, gets to the top. You know, we said once we get into it deep enough, we're going to go to the other side. That's exactly what it did. You know, to be honest, I had a hard time this morning myself, personally, believing we would work higher today. We came in with a lot of negatives. The thought would to sell the news would kick in. But not to be. Instead, we gapped down right at the beginning off all the bad earnings, and the kind of a sell the news lasted for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. And then it was a trend day up all day long. And I guess what I would bring to your attention here is a week ago, you know, we had the structure in place setting up, where you had swing point lows here, and we were down there close enough to think about the potential that was going to print swing point low, which it did. The potential for maybe some sort of sideways consolidation down in this area and then potentially break down. At 1% gains per day, 5 days in a row, or 6 days now, it's kind of silly when you look back at this and think, what the heck were we thinking about, right? I mean, how was that ever going to take place in this market? It just isn't. If you look at these trends, the qualified trends, I don't hardly see, what do I see? I see 2 like sideways, 3 sideways, everything else bullish. Kind of hard to even imagine this market backing off. Let's look at the numbers. We actually had the Dow Jones down, what, 2 points. And that was even with the debacle out of IBM. So the Dow Jones gives up 2 whole points, 15,372. And that was Goldman and IBM, the 2 largest weightings now in this whole index down. And we couldn't even get, we barely got a red day. S&P's up 11 and a half, 1733, they're over the top. Composite 23.7 higher. That gives us 3663. NDX up 19.6, 3301. Russell continues to lead us higher, over 1100, 1102 and a quarter. Gold, big spike higher today. Gold was up. They got that wrong. It was up about $35-40 today. I'm not sure what they were thinking here. This quote's plain wrong. It's not down that much, I don't believe. Let me go look. No, it's up $36 even after hours total. So gold up big today. Silver up. The only thing that was dragging today was oil. Oil came down. Oil's threatening to break down. We've been watching that, thinking that was going to happen. The dollar got hammered over 1% lower, threatening to break out the lows on a weekly and a daily, which would actually carry it down to multi-year lows if it does. Elsewhere, bonds up big today, up slightly after hours. So that's kind of that front. If we go over now and take a look at these indexes and see what they look like, what we're going to see here, S&P's over the top. Swing point high had 37.4. We go over it with 34. So it's going to be a suspect breakout as we get over the top. That should give us some sort of a retrace at some point. But you know, as this market has showed us time and time again, V-shaped moves, once they get going, they're very hard to stop. So you got a breakout here on the daily. And if it closes over the highs tomorrow, you're going to have a breakout on the weekly as well. Swing point high there is, let me move this up a bit so I can see. Broaden that. There we go. So swing point high here, 1709. It's pretty hard to think that's going to fall that far, so you're going to have probably a breakout on multiple time frames. Usually that leads to 1 or 2 bars on the highest time frame that it breaks out. That means weeks. So it looks to me like this market, at least from the S&P's perspective, wants to move even higher. Dow Jones. Dow Jones, of course, is sucking air. Has been nice recovery here today, but it's going to just try to get into the bottom of this big bar. It's 15,448. And then we go to the strength sectors. NASDAQ. NASDAQ's still strong. Over the top, just pushing away. Never even got the retest regen this morning. Didn't even get down that low. Volume picking up. Nice big move, 6% or so in 5 days. If we look at the, what is it, the NDX, you got the same sort of situation. Now the NDX had tested twice, did a retest regen when it finally broke out here, and then of course just took off. Russell. This has been the lead dog. This guy just continues to push higher. He came back, did his retest regens back here, had volume on them, which made us think, hey, this thing's going to come back. Well, forget that. This market doesn't do what you think anymore. It leaves volume in places you wouldn't expect, flips around, does V-shaped moves, and just keeps going again. This one at highs. There's nothing in any of these indexes other than the weak Dow to give us any kind of a pullback notion at this point. Sectors slightly different, but they continue to push higher too. So if we come in here and look at the sectors, starting with the transports, and I've got an article that we'll probably print tomorrow in Minionville, talking about the Dow theory and the fact that the Dow theory looks to me as if it's kind of like theoryless at this point, given the way they've rejiggered it. IYT, so the transports still look like they're reasonable in terms of reflecting what they were intended to, but the industrials don't. This one's going after the highs. I would expect it's going to get to those highs, and then we'll see if it gets over it and starts a big ABCD up on the weekly. SMHs, it's amazing because we've seen multiple chip stocks show us weakness in the sector, yet the sector keeps going higher. Volume comes in, just getting pushed higher as a result of volume flows coming into the market. It's momentum, folks. It's all about momentum again, and the momentum's in the favor of the bullish camp. Here's the XLB into resistance. Doesn't have the volume, but it's still going to test the top. XLE. Remember, it broke out yesterday, multiple time frames. It looks like that's going to hold, which means you can get 1 to 2 bars on this one, and the volume's there, so that one looks to go higher as well. Now, after 6 days of straight up, I don't want to sound so bullish here that you can't get any kind of a pullback, but after 6 days of straight up, anywhere from 5 to 7% depending on the broad index. I mean, we're talking the whole market. You got to think you're going to get a pullback somewhere. To try to play that, that's a fool's game. It's not going to work, because when you think it's not going to go any higher and you take the position, then it probably goes higher for another 2 or 3 days, and then you're just trying to get back to even. So rather than trying to outright short the market, if you're hedging, it's one thing. You're just giving up something on the other side. If you're trying to short this market just because it keeps going up, you'd be better off just keep your money in your pocket and wait until it retraces and buy it. So here's, let's see, what are we on? XLE. So that's the XLE. XLF. So my point is that at any point you can get a pullback, but the pullback probably is just going to set up a buy, not a sell. XLF gets over the highs, got to the volume. And so it's multiple highs on this time frame. Let's look at the weekly, because this has been the weak sister. Okay, so the top here, 2093. You're at 2087, got the 2090. It's going to try to take it out tomorrow. And it's going to have the volume if it does it. And if so, that's a breakout of a range, right, that can push you again. And this is one of the largest sectors now in the Dow and in the S&Ps. So big sector, very important that it breaks out at some point. And you would think that you get some sort of an attempt to do that given the way it's moving. XLI industrials, we're going to get GE tomorrow, Honeywell, a couple other industrial names. So we'll see if this can actually get this ABCD it just put in place going to take it to the top. XLK, the technology sector. Let's see what it's doing. All right, so it comes back into support on the open. .77. Excuse me, that was 7.7. 7.4. So it comes back into support, doesn't have the volume, flips around. This thing also looks like it wants to test the top. I can't find any weakness anywhere unless I go to individual stocks, which I've been talking about lately. XLP's huge range just going to the top again. XLU, and that's an ABCD structure up. XLU has the same thing, ABCD up. That one will take it to the highs. The XLP will take it to the highs, the ABCDs. So bullish ABCDs on the two weakest sectors. Okay, here we go with our healthcare. Nice big breakout yesterday. Had the volume. Pulls away. I can't see anything negative there. Last one, discretionary. Okay, going after the highs. All right, the top here, 6.3. You're doing 6, you're doing 5 into it. And let me see the weekly. $58, no, what is that? 50, 60, 75. So you're easily over the weekly. Volume's picking up on the weekly. Well, this one's mixed. The daily's not there. It could still break out, but you know, you got one mixed out of 9. So I guess there's got to be one that's not going to tell you that it wants to go higher. That one looks like it can come back. All right, let's move over to the ox markets and see what we got there. So over here, one thing I've been talking about is the DVA trying to break out. No longer is it trying, it has. This one's been trying to turn the corner. We've been looking at it and talking about it. You know, you get a nice little bottom flipping around. I'm sure, you know, given the long trend down, you'll get something coming back. But this is a commodity market, and a lot of times these things don't come back much. So, you know, trending around, gets a spike up, a nice big spike here, takes out the high, does the retest regen, right, and then does it on nothing, which confirms that it wants to go higher despite that volume breakout. And this is where neoclassical differs greatly from others, and that is that we look at the retest and ask ourselves, okay, is it telling us that the sellers are stepping up or not? And if it doesn't, then it's going to go higher despite there being a big volume on the high. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's a totally different idea. Let's see here, 25.16. Yeah, this one can go higher on the retrace, another 10-15 cents. So the DBA, I just wanted to point it out. The dollar was the big story today, down 1.1%. So let's look at, it's trying to break out the 21.47, closes at 21.46. So you get the break on the daily. Okay, now the big test is over here on the weekly. And that is that it's tried twice, or excuse me, tried a couple weeks ago to break out these lows and was unable. Right now it's under them. Doesn't have the volume. 21.57 is the low. I can't see how it's going to get back over these tomorrow, but maybe I'll be fooled. This looks like a break of support and swing point lows. So that gives you multiple swing point lows on multiple time frames, which says you're going to go after the next set of lows. And if we go to the monthly, that set of lows is way down here, 2084. So there is another bar in here at 2107. And on the weekly, you've actually got one more bar back farther. It actually was a spike up, and that one I think is I forget what the number was. It doesn't show on the chart anymore. But you know, unless this gets a miraculous save here on the daily, just to buy some time, this one looks to potentially get a fast move going down. If the dollar is going down, that's going to push all commodities up. But the one that's struggling is energy, and that is the USO. So if I look at the oil complex itself, it pushed down today, had some volume on the push. It's trying to take out swing point lows. It's testing them with volume. It's trying to take out this one as well. So you got 1, 2, and actually it already took out this one on this bar. So you've got 2 other ones it's trying to take out. Yeah, 2 more, and on the weekly, a retest regen off this high. 35.53 down to 34.57, and it's trading at 36. If this breaks tomorrow, you know, a good $1.50 off of this pretty quick. Now that's the only commodity is struggling. The rest of them going the other way, given the dollar's demise. So gold spikes up $30-something today, almost 40. Back into the big bar, back into this bar. It looks like, no, not quite. So actually, this was the one that held it. That's 127.98, 127.41. Didn't have the volume, so it'll test in that bar again, probably do some sort of a retrace, right, and then try to go higher. And if I look at silver, let's see what this one looks like. Okay, so it gets back into the bar and holds it. 2105, yeah, just barely. Doesn't have the volume, but it gets back into it. Silver's been stronger of late, probably the last 3 months or so, or at least a couple months. So if you go back, and I didn't do this on gold, I'll do it, but if you go back and look at these, right, you get a nice big spike up on the weekly, right, AB, small ABC that overextends. Now you're setting, or you're going to try to set up another one to go up higher. In other words, go up here and test these highs. Let me see what the gold looks like on the weekly. Yeah, so it's a much deeper retrace. Yeah, this is tough because, you know, there's so much resistance here after a long decline that a lot of times these things will look as if they're going to take off, right? And they simply carve out a little bit larger of a range. And that this one actually looks like, you know, looking at gold's weekly, looks like that's what it wants to do, which would mean it's going to come back up and, you know, test into this again, come back some, maybe come back into the bottom of this, and then try to work its way back up to the top of this, and then you have to measure it. But clearly, a big day up, big turnaround for something that looked like it was ready to go test the bottom again. Anymore, these moves are huge. Here's junk bonds, you know, no need to worry about companies defaulting anymore. Everything's going up. Let's look at bonds. Bonds made a big move yesterday, big reversal, carried through today. They're going up to that high, 107.28, 107.12, and they're hitting it with volume. This looks like, you know, I've been talking about eternal bonds for quite a while. This looks like it is going to try to work higher. It's certainly going to try to test this high and get to the next one. And again, the same sort of thing here, although it's a little different, it's not a commodity. Same thing here, big long decline, and then you start getting a turn. Those turns are torturous. They take time, but they do turn, and they will work higher before the dominant trend takes over again. Is usually the way it works, and I suspect that will be the way it works here. All right, let's try to answer any questions you have. Let's start with what's been put on the boards. Fede says wants to look at BBY, and then we'll talk about earnings after that. So BBY, let's hit that one first, see what it looks like. So this is the Best Buy, right? Yeah, Best Buy. All right, so Best Buy has had a big turn going. I'm over on the monthly now. A tremendous turn, right? This thing was left for dead because of Amazon. Amazon was running them out of business. And then they said, okay, let's change our business plan. And what they did is they started highlighting and giving floor space to like Samsung and Apple and Microsoft. And I assume they're charging a pretty good clip on that floor space. And all of a sudden it turned this whole market around. I mean, this whole stock around is back up testing the highs. The thing I would tell you here is I just, you've already made a big run. You're coming back into a heavy resistance zone. It's getting into it well on the monthly. I can't find anything wrong with it. It's just that, you've had a big run. I mean, you're back from, folks, these kinds of runs don't continue forever. And I don't know that change that they've made says that they're going to go back to where they used to be. I mean, this went from 1138 to 43. That's a triple. I mean, yes, if you're going to trade it, you got to trade it from the long side, but how far can it go from here? I can't tell you that. There's nothing wrong with the stock charts. I just don't see a good entry here. So from that perspective, yeah, it's a great chart. Just like some of the other great charts, there's just not much you can do with it. Let's take a look at the earnings right quick and what time I have left. So let me pop over to those real quick, and then I'll take that last question that just came in. So if I go to the earnings and pop up my earnings screen, so the big earnings today, AXP, of course, the financials did well. This one I'm sure did well as well. What's the number on it here on my chart on the update? So AXP, they reported this morning. They were up. Oh, it wasn't AXP. AXP was yesterday. Sorry. Baxter is the one I was looking at. So Baxter reported. Let's see what. Actually, let's move to the ones that really moved today. Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs financial. They gapped down today, as I was talking about with the earlier comments. You're down about $4 if I remember right. They ended down about 2. They gapped down and then they crawled higher all day long, but of course they were up here last night, so it's volume on the way down. So I can't get excited about a chart like this. And so many of these charts I've talked about are they're range trades. So even though we're seeing extreme strength in the indexes and the sectors, a lot of the stocks just aren't showing the same thing. IBM was the other big one from last night. Huge gap down. These are the two largest weightings. This thing's dead. It's a rounded top. It's heading back down to somewhere around 157 before it gets done. So, it'd go to 171 first, probably hold there. It almost got there today. That'll be where it kind of, bounces around again and then eventually sets up for the next quarter when it goes down to, the 150 area. This stock's dead. Don't even think about it. This is a huge ABCD down. I don't know that it completed, but it's getting close already. I wouldn't touch this thing. A question comes in on eBay. eBay reported last night. eBay was down, gaps down. It actually was a decent buy this morning. Pre-market, it was trading at 50. Opens up around 50.23 was the low, and then runs higher most of the day, but the volume is big. If you pull it over and look at the weekly, you know, there's a big range here on the weekly. It comes down into that bottom, into that range. The earnings were not great. They were not horrible, though. The only thing that is concerning is that there's like a weakening sales pattern. So that, you know, if you're looking for a spot to buy this, I think there's plenty of time. And I'm sure, you know, there's probably better stocks than this one. Yeah, it's a good trade, but it's not something I think you want to stick around in. I would actually let it test this bottom if you want to buy it. Let it test the bottom again, and then from down there you can make a decision on whether you want to hold it or not. So as soon as the market retraces, these stocks, IBM, GS, JPM, some of the others, you know, some of the ones that have reported, a lot of those chip stocks, they're the ones that are going to get hit. They're getting pulled up by a strong market. They're going to get hit when the market sells back off. So don't concentrate on those. Concentrate on the strong ones. And one of the strong ones, of course, is Google. Google reports after the bell. This was the big number out tonight. They traded up something like $60 after hours, 63.45. Actually, that's about 70. They were down 8 intraday. This thing is broken over everything. The fascinating part of this, and one of the members pointed it out, actually we bought it on this dip. One of the fascinating things is this swing point high on the weekly never got the retest regen. 844. We went almost 3 months. And then what happened last week? 842.98. Gets into the bar. Volume there versus the volume here. Lighter volume. It's telling you I can't go lower. Test this low. Can't get under it and stay under it. Flips around. Blowout earnings. 950. Or where is it tonight? 961.5 tonight at the close after hours. Things going to 1,000. Stocks do what they're supposed to do. Now they don't always do it, but I in particular and some of the members waited and waited and waited for this to come back and test. Got a good entry on it, and then the stock blows out earnings tonight. I took some profits, but I've still got some on. That's the sort of setup, if you're looking for a position to get into, what you want to do is buy a stock like this on a retrace, more so than a stock probably like eBay. So that's my opinion. All right. I'm going to have to leave it there. It's a night. We got Friday tomorrow. What can I say? Last night, Technical said they finally gave us the clearest signal in probably 3 weeks, saying they were going to go up. Of course, I didn't believe it. And what do? They go up. They break out the highs on the S&P. They extend on the strongest sectors. The strongest indexes. And most of the sectors are up pushing near the highs. If all the stocks looked as strong as the sectors and the indexes, it would be heaven. But as it is, it's almost. I can't see anything wrong with this other than the fact that we're extended. You'll get a pullback somewhere. When you get it, you have to measure it, see if you can get into some more stocks. Looks like they want to run this thing into the end of the year, which was a potential scenario. That looks like what they're going to try to do. Folks, thank you so much for being there. Have yourself a great night, great tomorrow, and until next time, I'm L.A. Little. This is and was your daily TA wrap. Have a great night. Until next time, take care.